what we need to do is make changes to the revenue and outlay so that it goes like this and becomes what we engineers call asymptotic to the zero line, so that the revenue and outlay is equal to each other forever. And then we'd never have to deal with it again. So how can we do that? There are solutions to this problem. There are a lot of really smart people out there who look at this kind of thing. And one of the best ones is a group called the Concord Coalition. I will talk about them in a little while. And in fact, they provided a couple of those slides that I was showing you. I've read all the information they present on their website. It's a huge amount of analysis. And this is what I would support to solve the problem. If we remove the income cap, right now, someone who makes $100,000 a year pays about $6,000 into Social Security. Someone who makes $1 million a year pays $6,000 into Social Security. I don't think that's fair. And in fact, Warren Buffett went to Congress in the last few years and explained to Congress that his net tax, he's a billionaire, he makes over $1 billion a year, he pays a lower percentage in tax than his secretary does. And I think that's wrong. I think that's unfair. And he was urging Congress to change the tax structure so that he would be paying a higher percentage of tax. And you can Google this on the web and read about it. He challenged he offered $1 million to any other rich person to perform the same calculation and prove him wrong, and no one has been able to do this. So our tax structure in this country is not fair. So if we remove the income cap on Social Security with no change in the way we calculate benefits, that will increase revenue. We should also address the outlay side. And one way to do that is right now, annual increases in payments of Social Security are not tied to inflation. They're actually tied to something else that I won't get into. So the cost of living adjustment for Social Security should be tied to inflation. That will actually reduce outlays somewhat. And then we should also means test the benefits. This is a plan put out by the Concord Coalition. Again, if you Google them on the web, you'll be able to find all this information, where they suggest, and I know this is hard to read, but they suggest changing the Social Security payments that people receive according to how much income they have in a given year. And I support this. And a majority of Americans do. Americans are actually very generous and reasonable people. Every poll I've seen of people who make a decent amount of income, when they're asked, would you be willing to receive less in Social Security in order to keep Social Security solvent? A huge majority of Americans say yes, of Americans who make more than $50,000 to $100,000 a year. So I think this is politically feasible. We should also very slowly start increasing the retirement age a little bit faster than it is now. Our life expectancy has grown much, much faster than the rate that we've been raising the retirement age. The retirement age has been increased a little bit over the years, and I support raising it a little bit more, not a lot. I talk about this more on my website. And if we did all these things, believe it or not, we could actually reduce the Social Security tax in a few years and still be sustainable forever. So we could reduce the Social Security tax to less than 6% and 6% on worker and employee. The Concord Coalition website is very difficult to navigate. It was very difficult to find the document that went through all the analysis for all these possible changes. It was a really wonderful document, but it was very difficult to find. So if you get a pen or a pencil, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can freeze it and write this down. I know it's a ridiculously long URL, but it was very hard to find on their website. So it's there for you. I strongly urge you to go to it and read it. And you know, that was a lot of information very quickly, but you know, you don't hear other candidates presenting specific plans on how to save Social Security, something that I think is extremely important. You know, we should have as our goals to continue to keep the percentage of our elderly, the maximum percentage of our elderly above the poverty line as we can, to keep it solvent and sustainable, and to minimize how high the tax rate has to be and how fair the taxes are. So that's what we need to do in government. We need to define the problem, define the goals, examine the possible solutions, and present the benefits and costs to each solution, and then work together to solve the problem.